My name is Babar, Abdul Sattar Babar. I am looking after Ipsos Research Company, which is a French multinational operating over 90 countries. I'm based out of Islamabad, but we have offices across Pakistan. Uh, so, welcome to this session. And you would have read that this is a very first baseline study on the climate change when it comes to the Pakistanis. So, and yes, I mean, I remember, about 30 years ago, when the green products, they were being talked about. I used to work in a research company at that time. And when we asked about these green products across Pakistan about 30 years ago, people actually literally considered green products to be actually green subs. So they had absolutely no idea at that stage, what they are. But I think the recent floods in 22, the way Pakistan government, I must congratulate them, the way they connected Pakistanis, that disaster with the climate change. I think it was the ever first awakening in Pakistan is, oh, so we are the victims. We are now getting the brunt of whatever is happening elsewhere in the world. So the first time Pakistanis started thinking about glaciers are melting, and the water when there are drought, for example, this year, especially in the north of Punjab, of course, there has not been any rains. Our dams are getting dry now. And yesterday there was a news item, only 10 days, water has been left for Pindi, especially in the dams. So these are the things what people, perceive about these challenges. Smog had been instrumental in Punjab, especially, and some parts of KP also. That smog might be also be the the consequence of what's happening in the environment. So when we were actually partnered with the Dawn Media on this initiative, Breathe Pakistan, so we checked that there has not been any nationwide study about the knowledge, attitude, and practices of Pakistanis about this very critical subject matter. So we started off, a research, and we utilized some of our global models on the same subject. So some of the numbers you're going to see, they would be based on our global framework of the data collection. I would request, I mean, if you can hold on to your questions, if you have any during my presentation, I would be happy to answer towards the end of my presentation. And that presentation is going to take about 20-25 minutes only. And if you are interested in the key numbers of this research, the printout you might have seen in your the segment information is there. And if if people don't have, we have extra copies here for you to take away with you. And we will also be publishing this on our website later on, so you can also connect with us. So let's start with the study. So we have just finished last week the data collection. So it's very recent, and whereby we have touched more than 1,500 Pakistanis all over the Pakistan. And after getting that information, we actually reweighted the data so that, I mean, the proportions by age, by gender, etc., they are really reflective and representative of Pakistan. And I would like to again, emphasize here that we this study did not have any external clients or sponsors. So we do it as a Ipsos, being the largest company in Pakistan, in MENA and other parts, that we have some obligation to talk about the important issues our human beings are facing in these countries. Okay. The starting from, because if we start, with asking people about straight from the climate, there should be some context. So the building the repo questions, what we call, is for important to ask people what are the challenges you are facing, which are most worrying for you in Pakistan. And you will see and hear that the first number you will be seeing, it says the most worrying and then the other worrying. And towards the each end of each bar, you will see that it's a cumulative number. And you see that most of the things which people are really worrying about is all economics related. Unemployment, inflation, electricity prices, gas load shedding, increasing poverty, corruption, etc. And look, I mean, the climate change as the most worrying part comes after, a lot of gap. It's only 4%. But when we ask about, what are the other mentions, other worrying, then of course the numbers jack up. So about, let's say, 1 in 5 in Pakistani, they consider climate change to be an issue. Only 1 in 5. And that is how it is different from the rest of the world. We will see some of the numbers later. And when we break down this worrying numbers across different demographics, we feel that the men, they seem to be, less worrying about the climate change. I don't know why females, but I don't have answered as of now. But females seem to be more concerned about climate change, and also the elderly. The youngsters, they are not that much worrying about it. And of course, and the urban people, since I mean they move a lot and they can see the implications in the shape in the form of smog and other hazards, so they feel the burn more. But the rural people, they don't have that kind of appreciation. And when we ask about, do you agree or disagree with the statement that, all that issues about the environment and the climate, they have been deprioritized because of the other concerns, majority of the Pakistanis, three-fourths, they agree with this statement. And this, the agreement level is different. In the female, again, they are more, pronounced in this agreement, and middle-aged people. And also, you can see that the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and AJK and, sorry, especially the GB, Gilgit Baltistan people, they have more agreement because they might be seeing it happening more to do over there. And then these are the global averages. I mean, we segregate the entire population into, when we ask the questions, into 5 different statements. The first is the climate change is not a concern. That is the, you can see there, it's 5%. The climate change is a concern, but it is largely overblown. And the climate change is at risk, but there is still time to act. The climate change is at a critical stage. The world must act now. And then the people who are considering it's too late to prevent environmental collapse. So these are the proportions based on global research Ipsos has conducted recently. And then we ran the same set of questions in Pakistan last week, and here are the results. We are not very much different on many things, but at least, you can see here the climate change is a concern largely overblown. People still are not that convinced in Pakistan. If you put together these two, the scores of people who are considering this to be, concerned, but it's overblown. 11 and 5, they are 16, but as compared to the S26 and 8, is a 34. So 34 versus 16. So it's twice as much. We are undermining the threat. And then the climate change risk, the numbers are not very different. But in terms of the climate change, the critical stage, the world must act now. Now we are again behind the global numbers. Climate concerns in Pakistan, when we ask the same questions, we can see that there are some differences across different geographies, different demographic cohorts. We can see here that when it comes to the regional differences, KPK, as mentioned in the previous slide as well, they have more feeling urgency to act upon on this. And Sindh, largely, of course, driven maybe by Karachiites, they are least alarmed about that situation. But here, I think there's a continuing pattern here that the men, they are a bit more skeptical about the climate change. Females, they are feeling more concerned about it. They are feeling more urgency to tackle this issue. But the men, they are, so there's a clearly it's a shift, between men and women. And urban respondents, they had little more concerns than the ruralites. So these are the differences which we have spotted in the analysis. When we asked that if we didn't accept, adopt that climate sustainable practice, I will feel guilty about it. So Pakistanis, they are, majority of the Pakistan, they are not either feeling guilty about it or they don't know about it. Only two in five, they are feeling guilty about it. But some of the subsequent slides will tell you that actually majority of the Pakistanis, they don't know precisely what is their role, what is how they can actually change the course of the climate change. They don't know. But here, the bit of difference is what we can see here, that the Sindh people, they don't feel guilty about it. It's the largest, they are careless about it. Over there in AJK also, but there is a dichotomy. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa people, they consider this to be important, more urgent to tackle the issues, but when it comes to their own practices, they are not feeling that guilty about it if they don't practice. So there is a bit of a self-contradiction in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa numbers. Yeah, we have asked the question that how companies, they are contributing towards this issue, and are they doing enough to tackle this issue? So a vast majority, more than two-thirds of Pakistanis, they consider that they are not doing enough, and they are spotting more on the FMCG companies, travel, clothing, apparel, footwear, technology, and personal electronics. And when all these numbers they show, these are the sectors which people expect that they need to do more, something to do with the climate change. They need to contribute to the less emissions, carbon emissions. They need to go for more sustainable energy sources. They need to, do their own job to restrict the damage on the climate change. We ask people, that who you do the thing that they should be, responsible to act upon, the situation we are facing, as compared to the rest of the world, whereby 66% people consider the government, their respective governments, it is their responsibility to tackle this issue, as to help improve the environment and fight climate change. But in Pakistan, about the numbers are not very different. Especially government has been put more responsibility by Pakistanis than rest of the world. Private companies globally, they are considered more responsible for taking up that challenge, and the political leaders. But in Pakistan, politicians are not being asked, let's say, by the people, and also in the scientists, they are not being asked that much. But the real responsibility which has been thrown by Pakistan is the government. they need to do whatever the requisite actions are. So yeah, these are the actually what corporate sector should be doing. So you can see there is a host of many actions people are talking about: deforestation, protecting forest, contribution to the water scarcity. They need to talk about more environmental issues. I'm glad that now you can see over there that quite a few Pakistani companies now they are actually supporting this initiative, from FMCG to oil to travel to hospitality to banking. So I think it's a good sign that at least now Pakistani companies they are waking up to actually accept that challenge, that it is up to them, that how do they need to actually contribute to preserve the environment, conserving energy, and organic products. I mean, in Pakistan, the concept of organic food is not that great. I think there's more education required to let people know what organic food means. And then, of course, most of the things they are related to energy, they are related to the packaging material. They are talking about when we are not still not have abundant using the one-time plastic bags. People talk about it, and then that we need to actually go for the travel, more efficient travel means. And when it comes to the individual themselves, I think it's overlay. It's not only the corporate people who can go for the initiatives about the deforestation, but for the individual also, there should be more drives about the plantation drives. Water is something which is coming up very on the top. That water is something we need to be very much mindful. And then littering, and eating mostly plant-based diet, hang drying cloths instead of using electric or gas dryers, low energy light bulbs. So all these parameters and the initiatives which people can adopt on the individual levels, and also now driving an electric car or a hybrid car. And a recent study we did for is globally in 50 countries, Pakistan came up at the top, which is willing to adopt to the electric vehicles. Across 50 countries, Pakistan was at the top. So, but when we come look at the pricing about the electric vehicles, they are not that conducive. So I think that appetite about the electric vehicles, appetite from the individuals, people, the government should go for those policies which are more supportive to the electric vehicles. Okay. I talked about the segmenting Pakistan the way we have done in the rest of the world. This is very interesting, and we are going to track the evolution of these segment sizes over time. We will do that. So the framework is pretty straightforward. It's very simple. That level of concern of the environment, and how much action or intended action there is by the individuals to reduce their own impact on the environment. So this is the framework. So we asked people, I mean, how much concern they have about the environment, and how much action or they are willing to take. So then, of course, we, based on the actual numbers, we divide them into different, segments. Okay. And in the next slide, I'm going to talk about that who are these activists. Of course, they have a high concern about the environment, and they are actually very much willing to contribute themselves to contribute to avoid those consequences to the environment. So, and this is the disengaged denialists who are denying that, and conflicted contributors, busy bystanders, and pragmatists. So, what are the numbers about these people? So, this is the global average 29, 25. You can relate that activists, they are 12 in Pakistan, globally they are 17, in Pakistan there are 12. When it comes to the pragmatists, there's a 29 and 22, but the remaining are not very different. They are having the same numbers. So what do they have in mind? Well, the activists, they are ready to sacrifice to accelerate the change and wake up to the world up. They are willing to compromise for, and they are ready to pay for environmental safety and view themselves as ethical and sustainable consumers. Take meaningful actions, avoiding using cars, recycling as possible. So we need to see that where do we stand in this room? Do we have more concern about the climate, and how much willing we are to take actual actions to do something about it? These pragmatists happy to contribute with some ifs and buts. They are self-proclaimed sustainable consumers who are willing to pay more when necessary and supportive of environmental efforts, but with the limits, prioritizing home-oriented solutions. Conflicted contributors focus on what makes a real impact. They recognize the urgency, but face financial constraints. They make compromises. They are not that much active. Busy bystanders will do enough to be called out. Okay, so I mean, people should not be shouting on them. Skeptical about the severity of the environmental issues, and too late to make a difference. And they prioritize economic growth over environmental concerns. So they are not that much happy to talk about environment too much. And these are the people who are in the constant state of denial. They consider this is overblown. They consider the issue is not that important. And I don't know when with the recent changes happening in the US, how it's going to affect the whole world. But of course, many of the people, they consider that these denialists, they are one third. They are 30% of the human population, and especially also in Pakistan. And we have seen some of the differences in Pakistan. Activists, more females, residents of Punjab and adults, pragmatists, they are females, urbanites, and elderly people. Uh, Busy bystanders, they are high proportion in Sindh and middle-aged Pakistanis. Conflicted contributors, more males, rural and KP and middle-aged Pakistanis. And disengaged, more males in rural areas and Sindh and young adults. So these are the few of the, and of course we have the data about their media exposure. So based on the in-depth analysis of these, we can actually come back and we can evolve a strategy how to communicate with them and how to influence their thinking. Sorry. And you can see that since I mean it's a very a very well thought segmentation, you can see that over time you can see that only 31% believe the environment is a critical state. Over there you can see, but there is a pattern. There is a pattern that from activists to denialists, concern of climate change is going down, reflecting varying levels of urgency among the Pakistanis. So we need to see that over time in the next years to come, how these proportions are going to change. Are they progressing in the desirable direction or the otherwise? The time will tell us. So what we have seen so far, that climate change is deprioritized because of the economic concerns and other pressing issues in Pakistan. And the climate change, Pakistanis, they consider this to be a risk, but they're not taking impactful actions, and very few feel the guilt towards environment. So that is a concern to me. The Pakistani government is more responsible than the individual, followed by corporation take actions. So it's not, they are not considering this to be at their own to take the responsibility. I think the significant gap exists between the denialist and the activist, and we need to see that, how we can actually change and shift their attitude and reduce the climate change denial that we need to see in the years to come. And all that actually, what is suggesting us from the study, that is a pressing need for the campaigns that actually raise awareness and sensitize the public at large. And I think this ever first international climate conference happening in Islamabad and supported by a lot of companies and the institutions, I think that is a right step in the right direction. But we need to do more of that, so that, I mean, the critical nature of the environmental risk are communicated to the masses. And also we need to, as yesterday there was a discussion, it's as Justice Mansoor Ali Shah Safi was saying, that it's not only the environmental issue, it's a basically economic issue, because whenever you would like to conserve something, you need to actually sacrifice some of the economic gains or benefits. So I think that very delicate and important message that needs to be communicated to the masses at large, that is just not that we should be sitting idle, quiet, and happy with whatever the nature mother is doing with us. Rather, we need to preserve that. We need to do something about it, and we need to consider, as judiciary in Pakistan, they just said that climate and the sustainable climate and the environment should be considered as one of the important fundamental human rights. So it is not just we should not be at the mercy of whatever is happening. Rather, we need to take the control of actions in our hands. That's all. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions. Please, sir. We collected ourselves, Pakistan. Of course, we have a complete team. Sorry? I mean, you can check the details afterwards, but it's a complete quality assurance mechanism is in place. Yeah. Thank you.
I want to understand a bit more about the sample size. In terms of cities, urban, rural, do you guys have that breakup?
We can get you the complete breakup, but let me allude on the methodology. It's a random digit dialing. Okay, so there's no human interface to dial any number, no quota assigned, nothing. Okay, so as long as it is done randomly, okay, it is likely to throw the actual representative of the sample. Okay, but what you would have seen that I mentioned, that after data collection, we assign some of the weighting we had to do, so that it should be reflective of the entire Pakistan in terms of population breakup by age, by geography, etc. So it's a really representative of Pakistan.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And I want to know whether at the time of making sample you kept in mind a rural and urban divide, and how many participants from rural areas participated in your this data collection activity.
Okay, great. As I just mentioned, it is a random digit dialing. It means that who, yes, I mean, it has a caveat. The people who don't have mobile phones, which are about, 20% of Pakistanis, still they don't have any mobile phone accessibility. So they are not part of this, this research. But 80% of Pakistan, which is spread across urban, rural, small villages, etc. They are part of this, and if there are some few minor proportions, they were not making, aligned with the published data of Pakistan. We aligned them through weighting. So it is the results what you are saying. They are truly representative of the entire Pakistan, except for that 20%, about 20% people who don't have access to mobile phones. Please.
Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to know if the timing you conducted the survey in January, right? So if that was done at another time, would that impact the results data somewhat, or how would that?
It might, and that's why I mentioned that we are gonna track this information every 6 months, so that if there are any seasonal implications, they will be captured in the. It's a baseline, so we will keep on tracking that over time. Yeah, but it's
Thank you.
important. Yeah, timing is important. You have some other. Yes. Okay. Okay. Great. You have some question?
So my question is, in the data, you mentioned that urban population has more of a concern than rural population, but wasn't the rural population more affected directly, especially like the floods that happened and everything? So, isn't this kind of paradoxical information that even though they're the ones being more affected, the urban population is more concerned? So isn't it kind of a contradictory data finding?
On the face of it, it seems contradictory, but it actually is a function of how much awareness is there, how much appreciation is there in the rural areas. Okay, I mean, the kind of multimedia exposure urbanites have, what they keep hearing about, I mean, is it the same level of awareness happening in rural areas? I think it's their kind of ignorance which is making them, feel like that. Yep, there's, it's no, for the recording, because we'll come back.
It's rather a generic question, and I'm interested because when it comes to data, we are struggling. It's not only, like climate, environmental related, but when it comes to data, no matter if it's around the gender data or it's around the energy consumption data or whatever, there are very less, or can say unknown, or not very, good sources that we can rely on. We usually get the data from some of the researches that are done by international bodies, and they give us referring to the World Bank report or referring to the other ones. In your work, I'm just curious to know that a desk review is done to start something, and were you able to find any resources that were directed towards some, data collection areas where we can use those? I mean, and through you, we can know that where to go and where to find the information from.
Yes, I mean, I think when it comes to any specific subject matter, of course, I mean, the starting point should be whatever is known should be capitalized upon. So, and to that end, the secondary data available in published material, that needs to be browsed, and that needs to be, understood. And of course, we need to build upon that. And you just mentioned about the, that some international institutions and the World Bank, they talk about the numbers. So let me share with you. We talked about the 22 floods, and there was a report from Pakistan. There's a 30 billion US dollars damage to happen to Pakistan. That 30 billion estimates that were based on Ipsos research. and it was based on the remote sensing tools, because we have some global contracts with the very latest satellite, and through monitoring those what happened to Pakistan. So, for example, there's a bridge broken, and what kind of bridge it was, okay, how actually it was, and how much it cost. So, based on that, we were able to translate that into damages. So, and all that was done in 17 days. So there are data available. And I think uh, talking about the Pakistanis, yes, I mean, we at times we are data averse. We don't want to learn many things, because if we know, then expectation with we need to act upon something. So that's why let's so bless. You haven't heard that term that जिन्हों पता ही नहीं होती मौजा ही मौजा, जिसको पता नहीं है वो he is enjoying life. Okay, ignorance they feel like is a heaven. Yes,
Hello.
can you pass one mic to here as well,
I'm asking a question.
please?
First of all, wonderful work. Secondly, my question is you mentioned several times that women are more cognizant about the existence of climate change as compared to men. So, are there any like reasons behind this that you guys came to know about?
No, I think this is the phenomena which we have seen is important. I mean, of course, we need to go back to and we need to run some qualitative researches to understand what is underneath, what is actually making them feeling more. But I think on a generic level, I can answer. I think females they can tend to be more sensitive. They are more recipient to the emotion. They are more recipient to the very very delicate feelings. So being the God has made them more receptive and more cognizant of these softer things, and men they are rugged. They are so but to me this is more of a generic answer. Not actually we have not asked these respondents. We can do that later on.
Yeah, just to add to this point, I think the economic woes, the issues of economy related, unemployment and inflation and poverty, they are more felt by males. So, in comparison to that, other issues, and especially climate change, is being felt by females more. So, one of the answers is this.
I would just like to add to that point. You mentioned the difference between rural and urban, and you also mentioned that a possible reason why we are not aware of climate change could be because that ignorance is bliss. But is it possible, considering the economic situation of the country, that climate change is almost seen as like a first world problem? Like people are more concerned about having food, water, shelter, so they don't really see the importance of climate change. Is it possible that before we address climate change, that we should address the economic concerns of the country?
I think, of course, I mean, there's no second thought about it that we need to look at the basics first and then go to the next level. But the thing is that, ask those 30 million Pakistanis who were affected and who were displaced by the floods. Okay. All of their lives, all of their, savings, their cultivation, their, everything. I mean, all that was swept away. Okay. And so I think these environmental disasters which are happening now, they are so humongous that I mean, look at what happened in LA. I mean, the really the most richest people on this planet, I mean, they were living over there, and all of their household and everything, they were. So I think environment. Yes, I agree with you that we need to fix the basics first, okay. But this is not something that we can just wait and see.
I'm just adding a thing according to the question of ma'am. The thing is that most female students in environmental sciences in rural areas and as compared to urban as well, rural and urban. और आई एम वर्किंग ऑन इको टूरिज़म और मेरे जिस तरह बच्चे सर्कल में आते हैं तो वो भी मोस्टली अगर वो रूरल एरिया से भी फीमेल्स होती हैं तो वो मोर कंसर्न होती हैं, और इसमें चूँकि डाटा अभी आपके पास जो था उसमें खवानदगी का एक एलिमेंट नहीं था जिक्र किया गया, तो ये भी एक एलिमेंट उसमें हो सकता है
जी
कि
बिल्कुल हो सकता है, आई एग्री, गुड पॉइंट।
बच्चियाँ जो हैं मोस्ट कंसर्न है
जी बिल्कुल,
एनवायरनमेंट।
गुड। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन?
So I just have one question, and that is the global averages that you shared with us. पाकिस्तान उसके representative है, no doubt, but इसमें कोई element integration का है क्या? Because again, that is disproportionate across the globe. So पाकिस्तान में जो climate change का impact है, that is not directly caused by Pakistanis. So is there any element of accountability that is being attributed to other countries or the main stakeholders जो globally responsible हैं for the climate change events?
I think answering that question is beyond my pay scale. Okay, you know, so I think the decisions to be taken by China, by US, you know, I mean, uh, His Excellency, you know, King Trump, he just took US away from Paris Accord. I mean, through an executive order. So how, I mean, we can influence? I think the whole humanity, they need to get together, to stick together. I mean, to make consistent policies which can help the whole humanity across the planet. Good. Anything else? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.